All right, well, greetings. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board of Easton, Tuesday, May 26, 2020. Hope you all had a nice Memorial Day weekend. In keeping with the ongoing emergency order from Governor Charlie Baker to limit gatherings and maximize social distancing, and under legislation passed to address remote board meetings during the emergency declaration, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards a quorum. The meeting shall be available on ECAT. To use Zoom, you will need to use the link on this agenda or on the published agenda, or download the Zoom application. You will need the webinar ID to join by phone only. While conducting meetings remotely, we will endeavor to keep meeting operation as close to our standard procedures as possible. However, use of this platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. One, while board members or commissioners and applicants will be on video and audio, excuse me, public participants will join the webinar as attendee, meaning they are muted with no video feed from them. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public can be recognized by using the raise hand function found under participants from Zoom, or make a request with the Q&A function. If you are joining only by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. There is a markup function in Zoom which will allow you to call out specific areas of presentation materials. As in any public meeting, indecent behavior will not be tolerated, and anyone who abuses the use of the meeting platform will be terminated from the meeting. Board members are asked to announce themselves when making a motion and second, so that it will be clear to the audience and minute takers who made motions. All votes will be by roll call. Excuse me. So to ensure we have a quorum, we'll start that. So Strange, present.
Stetson, present.
Peter, you want to chime in?
No, I did it. The Shane present.
Okay, I think everybody went at once. All right, so we have a quorum with Stetson, Anderson, DeShanes, and Strange. Excuse me. Okay, welcome all. So first up is a continued public hearing for 370 Center Street. It's a special permit duplex application. Iman?
All right, I will bring up plans on that and bring in the applicant. I believe that is Frank Gallagher here. I'm bringing you in. And let's see if he's comes up.
Hello.
All right, Frank, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Is there anyone else I need to bring in from your team, Frank?
Yeah, there should be. Alex Alfieri is the applicant.
Okay, let me.
I did forward this to him, so.
Okay, yep, he is here. I'm going to bring him into as a panelist as well.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, just for a minute, Imai, just so you know, I have a text from Deb Balseric saying
Okay. Oh, she's on now. Yeah, I
she
see
has
her.
an audio issue. She's trying to retry. So just want to give you a heads up.
I'm putting her on as a panelist as well. And hold on, I'm bringing in Alex Alfieri as a panelist. All right. Let's see. Okay. And bring up one more drawing here. Okay. All right. Should I start with the overview, Greg, and some of the staff report, and then?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay. So we looked at this application, I believe, about 2 weeks ago. At that time, they asked to continue to work on the site plans after Greg and I had a meeting with them. So they have altered the site plan to move the project further back on the site to where the existing house is, to lessen the disturbed area, and hopefully the intent of that is to keep also the vegetation at the front for screening and just keeping the character along Center Street. They also did alter the architecture, which is something that I would like to discuss tonight, because the plan, as you can see by the floor plans here, well, this is an updated one, but it was just meeting at the corner. In response to that, I believe, Frank, you guys have updated this for a fix here for it to meet, you know, kind of infilled this space here. So we can kind of discuss that as to whether, you know, that now meets of duplex. With that, matters to discuss are basically, you know, confirming the landscaping along Center Street and taking a look at the architecture of the project. All right, Frank, you want?
Yeah, I guess I won't bore you maybe with just a, you know, a location on the site. It seems like everyone is pretty familiar with the site. Am I correct? Or should I go over the location and some of the characteristics of the site?
I think it would be a good idea to give some characteristics of
Okay.
the site from your opinion, sure.
All right, well, it's on the east side of Center Street. It's just south of Lantern Lane, 4 acres, almost exactly. 255 feet of frontage along Center Street. Residential zone, if you look on map 35U, it's plot 11. And there is an existing house there, and there's an in-ground swimming pool that goes along with that house. But the house itself is pretty much, it's a tear down. The house isn't really worth keeping. It's a one-level kind of a contemporary ranch type of a house. And it's actually in violation of the side setback that the zoning ordinance requires. So it's an existing non-conforming location on the house. There is some floodplain on and some wetland along the, I guess, the southern boundary of the property, and that's pretty much runs the extent of the southern boundary. It's starting at Center Street, and it runs all the way to the other side of the property and off the site. We've presented that wetland to the Conservation Commission. They reviewed it, and we have an ORAD from them, an order of resource area delineation. And the property, as far as the topography and the site features, it's about 3/4 wooded, the 4 acres. It's just a little under an acre that's cleared, whether for the house and the yard and all of that. And it slopes essentially from north to south. So if you were standing on Center Street and looking at the lot, it would be sloping from your left to your right and into the wetland. And that holds pretty much for the entire site. There's town water, and there's an on-site septic system, and the house itself measures about just over 2,500 square feet. 2,550 square feet is the footprint of the house. So that's the site, and our proposal is to take down that house and build a duplex. And I should thank both the planner and the chairman for the discussion that we had on it, because it was really beneficial. It kind of sent us back to the drawing board, and that's why we continued it to tonight. But I think it was to everyone's benefit, I hope, because I think we just weren't being sensitive enough to particularly the fact that Center Street is kind of a historic and kind of a main corridor type street for the town of Easton. And we were sort of plunking our house right up on the street. But with the feedback that we've gotten, I think we've made changes that really respect, the country nature of Center Street. And we did that by, first of all, just using the existing driveway that's there. And then second of all, relocating the house so that we keep the current tree buffer that's up next to Center Street. And then really overall, I think the approach to this house, and you'll see if you look at one rendering in particular, that's sort of almost looks like a photograph of what the front of the house would look like. And I think it's much improved aesthetically. Yes, that right there. So anyway, that's where we're at. Now, a special permit is required in order to do this, as we know. And if you look at Chapter 235 and Section 56B, it lists the kind of the criteria that the board, I guess, has to determine has been met in order to grant a special permit. We submitted a brief that addresses each one of those criteria, and I won't read it, but if you do have any questions, I can try to answer them for you. But I think if you look at our brief, and I think with the changes that we've made, I'll say on behalf of the applicant that I think that the board could find that it's legitimate to grant a special permit in this case. So I'll just, that's it. I'll take questions or comments.
It would be a little shaky if you thought otherwise. So I just want to jump in for a second, just to talk to the other board members. When Mr. Alfieri and Mr. Gallagher requested a meeting with Imai and I got together, and I guess it was, we did it via Zoom. And if you think of where this site is, down towards the end of Center Street, near the monument, right? It's right across the street from an old historic cemetery, and the front of the lot is pretty much fully wooded, and then it opens up. There's a field, and there's a house. The existing house Frank was talking about is set back somewhere in the vicinity, I think, of where the house is shown now. And the original, and normally we don't really try to give. We try to do this obviously as a board, but I was troubled with but a lot of times on duplexes or special permits, there is a lot of upfront, or at least some upfront communication. And there hadn't been any in this case. And the plan that was proposed at the time was for a building that was probably as close to the street, I think, as you could get it. And the way the engineering worked out, the topography, the lot would have been filled towards the front several feet. Every tree would have been wiped out. And, when you think back to one of our many things under our purview, the charge from the town is try to maintain rural character. So, when we can, I think it's important to try to save, treescape along the road. Mr. Gallagher explained that kind of the location was based, as I suspected, trying to get as far away from the wetlands as they could, and based on the septic design. So we had a good back and forth. I also did say that this is a special permit. I'm only one member of one of five, but we were hoping to, I thought it didn't really, I can't speak for the board, but I thought it was, it's a much improved plan. Anyways, I'll just say that. And I guess the only question, obviously, I know the footprint doesn't quite match, because I think at the last minute, which I think is right, 'cause I think the way these touch, I think it probably violates our definition of duplex, but who knows? But why get into a semantic battle? So the fact that you put in those craft rooms, I think, just alleviates it. And my only question, Frank, is think about someone buys this house, they're out in the Easton, right? I would think that this is going to be a substantial price still. I mean, duplex affords some efficiency, but they'd probably like to have a little bit of a yard. So I'm just wondering, I know it's not under our purview, but do you expect to, when you go to Concom, to show, you know, a yard, especially for the Eastern unit? You know, I know you're totally out of the 50 foot. And I just think it would be, so often I see plans that get through Concom and they allow a backyard that's 6 feet off the back of the property. But you know, builders and developers know how to use silt sock and how to follow orders of conditions. And I'm always fearful when the homeowner moves in, when they're given a yard that's only 6 feet. You know, after a while they rent that bobcat and because they don't know, they're not in the business, and they end up just, you know, damaging a lot of what was trying to be protected in the first place. So I guess I'm just curious what the game plan is. And then total square footage of the houses, because I couldn't see that on the plan, and total square footage of uplands on the lot, if you have
Okay.
that.
The houses are 2,045 square feet.
Each side.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the garage is an additional 565 square feet. But as far as living space, it's 2,045 per unit.
Yep.
And then, the grading is a little bit difficult with, you know, as far as we're restricted to that, you know, to try to stay outside of the Conservation Commission's 50-foot buffer zone. So the way I'm looking at this, and we haven't filed with them yet, but as I see it, we have a fair amount of area within that 50-foot buffer zone that's already being used as a yard area, and that's cleared. So I think that the commission would see that in a little bit different light than they would see undisturbed areas. So as you come down the driveway, both sides of the property are cleared, and you can sort of see the tree line, and it comes up pretty close to the edge of the wetland. So I think if that's just maintained as yard, then the homeowners will be able to use it, and they'll certainly be able to use that portion of the yard where the septic system is. The part that I've on the east side, as you say, I've limited the grading, and I've created a 3-to-1 slope around that eastern unit. And then I'm showing a proposed retaining wall that kind of comes right to the 50-foot buffer zone, because all of that is undisturbed and it's treed. So I think the Conservation Commission is going to want us to honor the 50-foot buffer zone in that area. And the fact that I've got a retaining wall, I think, is going to help to probably delineate that area and hopefully discourage a future homeowner from trying to expand that. And the other thing that the Conservation Commission does, I think, often is, if there's any question in their mind, they'll make the builder, the original builder of this, will probably have to put a fence right at the 50-foot buffer zone, so that it's even more obvious to anyone who moves in there that, you know, that's the limit of where they can go.
Yeah, I guess the area I was thinking about is sort of the northeast, right? Yeah, northeast of the garage, sort of, you know, just you know, whatever. Again, it doesn't really. I understand the conservation rules, so just thinking someone's gonna need a little bit of a yard. Now, I get why you have to work with the topo, but if they could, you know, anyways, that was my only.
They could, in fact, I could show. I mean, I've just shown the grading. I haven't really shown a limit of clearing, but I could actually show some additional clearing where those proposed grade lines end, because it is a little more level as you go east from there, and there is area that's outside the 50-foot buffer zone. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a little usable area, and I think it might behoove you to get that on the plan going forward. And is the plan, the game plan to along the street, just, I mean, might clean it up, but leave the substantial trees that are there? you know.
Yeah, I don't think we'd change any of that.
Okay. That's all I've got. Any board members have any questions or?
This is Deshane. So how far back is the front of the garage to the center street?
Let me see, the closest, from the closest garage point out to Center Street.
Yes, yeah, I mean,
Let me see.
approximately.
It's about 100, it's 170 feet to the
Okay,
front lot line, which is pretty much that stone wall in front of the property is the lot line. So,
yeah, so, I mean, I don't really like the design of two large or medium large houses, you know, joined by a corner or even by a breezeway or something, but this is far enough back that that's okay with me. However, I would just, you know, make a note that, you know, on future applications, maybe not yours, but, you know, for someone else, if this were facing the front of the street, you know, 30 feet back from the street, then I would have a different opinion.
mhm.
But in this case, because it's so far back, that's okay with me.
But Peter, do you see the I don't know if this is referring to it, just and I'm not trying to disagree with you at all,
No,
but
I see that where they connect with them, right? Yeah.
the floor plan there has been updated since
Yeah.
the site
Well,
plan.
yeah, I'd say even this updated floor plan, if that were facing the street 30 feet off the street, I wouldn't really, that's,
Yeah, oh, this is totally different house from what was,
yeah. I mean, just given that it's a special permit, I would reserve my rights in the future to not, you know, be in favor of this design, depending on the location and visibility.
your rights have been reserved.
Thank you.
You know, too, Greg, just to follow, you had one other question that I didn't answer. And you were asking how much of the property was upland,
Yeah,
and it's 2.4 acres is the upland
it's
area.
upland. Okay,
Mhm. Out of 4 total.
right. Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the, we've always struggled with bylaws in town, with bylaws, with duplexes, in that we've talked about maybe needing to try to have some guidelines. And, you know, it's tricky, you know, look at this, you know, they don't get a lot of usable yard, but I understand because wetlands, Easton's wetland bylaw comes into play. But I do like the fact that this is back sort of in the existing footprint, and to Peter's point, that allows a little more, in some opinions, right? Allows, it's easier to take a pill sometimes, I guess, when it's right on top of the road.
Mhm.
And certainly, you know, there's nice, you know, there's a nice, the house has a hierarchy anyways, you know, in terms of, you can see the front door, you can see where the living space is in the garage, which really wasn't the case the first time around, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you think a lot of duplexes in other parts of town might be on a quarter or a half acre lot, whereas they're sharing a yard anyways. And so if you look at the space that this one actually has in front, that's, you know, even out of the wetland, that's still a decent, you know, yard space that would have to be shared. And assuming that someone that buys a duplex understands they have to share the yard with the other person.
Mhm. Yeah, there would be, you know, condominium documents and a homeowners
Yeah.
association, and it would, you know, spell all that out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's actually a pretty big front yard. Some homes, even in some of the, you know, the larger developments, some homes are sort of right back on the property line, and they use their front yard as their, you know, main yard area. So
Mhm.
Lots of room for social distancing.
Yeah.
One question I have, I think the look of it is nice, and I agree that coming to the corner looks a little odd. Is there a reason you skewed it instead of making it straight from a design perspective that you could explain, or what was the reasoning for that? What was
Well,
the intent?
I think aesthetically it worked. I thought. And then, but beyond that, if you kind of look at the area that we have to work with, and the way the wetland buffer zone kind of bends on the lot, I kind of used that to fit it to some extent. And then, given the fact that I'm pushed to that northern lot line, I thought if I made them straight, I have, less backyard. Whereas if I
Gotcha.
angle them, it opens up the backyard a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, and it does, the angle I think helps provide a little privacy too. You tend to use your backyard more than your front yard.
Yeah. Okay. Just wondering.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments out there?
Yeah, I'd like to just comment. I don't think I was at the May 11th meeting, and I have to say that I think that since this property already is set back and it won't really be visible from the street, it is less of a concern. And at the same time, I think I'm really not a fan of this design at all. So I'm sorry, Greg, if that contradicts what you've been working towards. I personally actually, if it weren't for the grading issues, I actually liked the first version better. And I think we've been talking on this board about main streets and creating street presence. And I don't think this does this at all, but it does maintain the existing condition, which I think is okay. I think when I think about Center Street, I think that this first stretch of road, say before Short Street, from the Monument to Short Street, consists of more larger single family homes that are not really that close up to the road, although some of them definitely do have somewhat of a street presence and can be seen from the sidewalk. And so I think it's sort of a missed opportunity to not continue with that potentially. But I do think if there was going to be significant grading issues, I could see why maybe you wouldn't do that. Personally, if we were going to stick with keeping the house in the location more or less where it is, I would say, why not run those two buildings more parallel with the contour lines and stagger them somewhat, which would make it a little bit easier for you to fit them together. Because I don't know what the whole length of, if you had them all aligned, what that whole left to right distance is. But I think if they were staggered, you might be able to do something. And I'd like to see something more like where the first complex maybe had a front load driveway and maybe, and the rear one had a side load driveway or something like that, so that it still kind of maintains the look of a single family residence, which is more in keeping with the look of the other parcels preceding this. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
So I just want to jump in for a second. I mean, design, we've said this many times, design's objective, and we can all disagree. But my issue, just, that first house, well, to your point about walkable neighborhoods and main streets, I think we're appropriate. This is, to me, this is a more rural stretch, and I thought it was more important to keep, I thought it was nice to keep the trees in front, especially when you looked at that design. The yard was going to rise up, I believe, 6 feet on top of the existing grade, right on top of the road. So you'd wipe out everything. You'd be looking at a precast concrete block retaining wall. And then the front door, the front elevation of the house, all you saw was 4 garage doors. And the front doors, they were drive-under garages. And what wasn't accurately shown on the architectural plans, you would have 17 stairs coming from each front door down to grade. So I just thought it was, I really didn't think that hit much of what we've been targeting. So
I think being elevated off the street definitely doesn't work with the existing houses on that street. And I actually only really looked at the site plan, so I'm not really sure. I didn't look at it as carefully as I don't know if the actual house presented would have, without the elevation aspect, have been something we would have been in favor of or not. I'm just saying, I think I like I'm just really not a fan of this V-shaped house, and I think trying to connect them with some sort of corny like V seems, I just, it's not what I'd like to see, but I don't think you're going to see it from the road. So I don't know. I'm kind of with Chris on this. If you know, it's maintaining the woods and so forth, and that's the way to accomplish it, you know, so be it. It wouldn't, I think there's better ways to maybe have two separate units, have them maybe share a fire wall and maybe just offset or stagger them so it sort of appears as one larger residence as opposed to two symmetrical, you know, but kind of V-shaped, you know, residences. But again, I'm not really sure how much we're designers, or that's just my opinion. So in terms of what our role is here, in terms of approving.
Right. Well, I mean, we're not right. I mean, you're right. We're not. We're not designers, but we, you know, and those of us that are designers could, you know, get 10 designers or get 10 different ideas.
Yeah.
Well, what I try to use as a gauge, just personally, is, you know, in terms of, you know, I don't get too caught up in the shape of a building looking down from a drone. I worry about what it looks like from the outside, and does it fit you know, does it best use does it best fit the site? Now, I'm not saying that this does or doesn't. And all I know is this certainly is an improvement. I think for what it does to the site from what we had the first time around, and I'm glad as a group we're looking at this, because I think it's, if we were to approve this, I think there's something at least to start here. I don't know if it would be approved or if it would be changed, but I think the first one I would have been hard for, when we really dug into it, I think it would have been hard for the board to have gotten on board with. No pun intended. So that's silence. Anybody else? Anybody else want to chime in? Are we, you know, if we were, you know, moving forward, I mean, I don't, you know, if I would like to see on the site plan, I want the footprint to match the site plan, whatever's going to be built, obviously. And I think I'd like to see a note that you probably have to, you maybe have this in your field notes, Frank, but mark whatever substantial trees that are out there, you know, at the street, to remain. I mean, there might be some scrub that you want to clean up. I'll certainly understand that, but I wouldn't mind just seeing them on the plan and noted. And you know, in terms of the other items, I'll leave it up. Board members, any other thoughts, or, you know, or if you're not on board with this, we're not on board. I don't know what.
No, is there?
I think we should make sure that.
If the neighbors had any input?
I have not heard from any neighbors on this, no.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
No, just one other minor thing is we should write the upland on the site plan.
Good call, Chris. Excellent. Yep.
Okay.
Did you want to do a limit of clearing all the way around?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I'll call out a limit of clearing.
Did you say you have the existing tree line established?
Yes.
It might be nice to put that on the plan too, just to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's shown there. It's just, I use kind of a background line to show it. It isn't labeled, but it's just, it's shown. I'll call it out so that it's easier to see.
Oh, it's on the plan. We have your sign.
There is a tree line shown. It's just, like I say, it's kind of a ghosted line because that's typically how I show existing
Okay.
trees.
Yeah, I didn't, I printed up a version, but I can't. Is it on here at all?
Should be.
Where'd it go?
Oh, this line right here? The one,
Oh,
the kind of
okay.
revision
Yes,
cloud looking
yes.
line?
Oh, all right, yeah, you're right, I can see it.
Exactly.
All right, all
That's-
right, I'm sorry. So it goes up through the garage of the unit to the right. Oh, yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, I see what you're saying. Gotcha. It's already on there then. Look at
Yes.
that, we just made your revisions that much easier.
But still, I think I can show you, individual trees and label them as well. It'd be probably worthwhile to do that.
Yeah, I mean, just on the street.
Yeah.
And, and just the substantial ones. I mean, I get you might need to thin out a couple, 2-inch choke cherries or something for the
Yeah.
of what's out.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else? Imai, do we have anybody from the general public looking to?
I don't see anybody from the public either raising their hand or offering questions.
So would we like to continue this to our next meeting, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think we can't vote yet because the plan's not
Yeah.
complete.
Nope. That's
Okay.
fine.
So June 15th, you could get us items a week in advance, Frank?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Okay, motion to
Okay,
continue
well-
the public hearing.
Thank
the
you
next
very
meeting.
much.
Okay, I heard Mr. Desange make a motion.
Second.
Mr.
Is that
Anderson?
Chris?
Yep.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of continuing to June 15th, Strange eye.
Duchesne, aye.
Anderson, I.
That's an aye.
Alstaric, aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Frank.
I know.
So next, we have a request to continue the public hearing for 58 Mill Street for the definitive subdivision plan, Ridge Estates, and for special permit for estate lot 5 Owl Ridge Road. Request to continue to June 15th. If someone could make that motion.
Make a motion to continue to June 15th.
That
58
was Chris.
Owl Ridge.
Second.
All those in favor, Strange eye.
Duchesne, aye.
Anderson, I.
That's an aye.
Alstaric, aye.
All right. Next, we have a request to continue to July 6th. Public hearing for mixed use and site plan review for 38 Center Street.
We can you can mention that, but actually that wasn't on this agenda because it was actually continued to the 15th. So we can officially continue it on that day.
It's
For
on the
38
agenda I
Center.
have.
Yeah, it was on the agenda. I had to.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
That one-
so it's
that was-
continued to the 15th? Do we have a
yeah,
revised,
we had continued it to the 15th last time.
do we have a revised agenda?
Um,
Because you're right, it's not on the one on the screen, but it's on the one I got off the town's website. You want to do it just to cover our bases?
it doesn't hurt. If you
Right.
say it doesn't hurt. It's
So you're saying we'll continue it to the 15th though? No, this says July 6th. You're saying we're going to June 15th?
so we'll just have to do it again on the 15th, just for folks who would.
All right,
Who
so
thought it
just
was
to play
gonna-
it safe, why don't we do a request to continue 38 Center Street mixed use special permit and site plan review to June 15th?
Okay.
Did I hear a second out there?
Duchesne, second.
Did I hear a motion?
So moved.
All right, we did that. We did that a little reverse, but it works.
Okay.
We are the COVID fighters. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, Strange eye.
Duchesne, aye.
Anderson, I.
That's an aye.
Alstaric, aye.
All right, that's everybody, right? Cool. Continued board business, 418 Depot Street, A&R. Review decision and vote on A&R plan.
So this is the decision we looked at, or not the decision, sorry, but the 3-lot estate lot and A&R we looked at last meeting on the 11th. So this is just basically looking at the decision for that. So if you have,
Because did we vote on that? I'm trying to remember.
yep, you voted to approve it.
Right, okay.
Let me go back to sharing my screen here.
So we're not going to vote on the A&R plan. We already did it. Right?
Yeah, so this is just looking at the decision and,
Okay, I'm just, okay.
and
Yeah, we
approving.
decide if we want to sign it or, yeah.
Yep,
I look at it, that's fine with me.
Yeah, it looked fine.
okay,
Yep.
Imai,
yes.
I don't think there was a vote taken on the A&R plan, the plan.
Yeah, that's what I was
On the
looking at.
A&R plan itself, oh, we didn't make a motion on that?
No, last time we did not.
Okay. All right, then let's just to cover ourselves, let's make a motion on the A&R plan itself. Thank you, Suzanne.
Deshane, I'll make a motion to endorse the A&R plan
For 418.
for 418 Depot Street.
Second.
Anderson with a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Strange eye.
Jane, aye.
Anderson, I.
That's an aye.
Balsaric, aye.
So since this is kind of a new, do you want us to vote on the decision, or this is a new process? So
No, well, yeah, it is kind of a new process. Normally, as I understand this, I would just bring this to you folks and you would sign it right there, right? So I
right.
think in this process, no, you don't need to, actually, you know what, yes, let's vote on me signing the decision
right?
since
'Cause
I'm
we
going to be
sign,
signing
we
it
have
for
to
you.
give we have to authorize you to sign.
Yeah,
So if you guys are comfortable with that, somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to allow Imai to sign on our behalf for the A&R,
Approving the decision. Right?
approving the decision.
For 418 Depot.
Second.
All those in favor, Strange eye.
Deshane, aye.
Anderson, I.
That's an aye.
Balsaric, aye.
okay.
All
So
right.
that was authorization to sign both the A&R and the review and the decision, I mean. right?
Decision.
Yeah.
That was the decision.
All right. So next up, a letter of determination, Reardon Way, Lot 3. Imai, the floor is yours.
Okay, so what we have here is this letter of determination was sent a little while back. If you notice what we have to just confirm here is the actual plans that should be used. So if you notice this letter of determination for Reardon Way saying that it is, adequate as a way, references plans dated April 10th, 2018, revised through October 25th, 2018. However, I mean, having looked at this on October 30th, 2019, these plans would be more than a year old at that time. The staff report for that very same thing references plans dated 1/18/2019. So, and looking at the plans that were in the file, they are also dated 1/18/2019 right here. So, best as I can tell, this was just an error in this letter here showing April 10th, 2018, and the real dates should have been consistent with what's in the staff report and on the plans there, 1/18/2019. Concom is now looking at this property and they have the letter that shows that shows these dates without those plans. So they would just like confirmation that these 11819 plans are indeed the approved plans.
Well, we didn't have to approve the plan because we just had to make a determination that the road or the access was sufficient for another lot, right? So we didn't actually, there was never any plan that we were gonna intend to sign in the first place, I think.
True, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but these were the plans that should have been
Yeah.
referred to in the determination.
I think so.
As I piece it together, that's what it looks like to me. With staff report saying 11819.
Because they
and-
changed it. They were originally gonna go through an easement on the neighboring property, then they changed that to go more straight in, I think. So. that
Yeah, I mean,
looked-
I don't recall, I mean, I remember this project, it got kind of, we weren't really involved. It was mostly staff and it kind of got rushed through and I don't remember. Peter, do you remember seeing a plan with all this detail? I wonder if this is maybe I remember this, I just remember this plan with this much detail.
Yeah, I mean, I know there were a few versions. Remember, because like I was saying, there was one that went, I think the driveway went around the back behind the wetland, and then they changed that to have the access go right off the road or the way. So.
I mean, this jives with everything. I just don't remember seeing this actual plan, but Imai, you've had more time with this. Does it all seem copacetic?
Yes, it does.
Anybody have issues using this plan? Is there an attorney in the house?
I don't
Looking
remember
at it,
seeing
I
this
think
plan
I was
either.
on trial for this meeting. I don't recall seeing this plan at all. I don't think I looked at it.
Yeah,
But I trust your memories much better than mine.
well, there's your first mistake. I remember. See, I remember this plan. I just don't remember with all the wetlands and buffer zones. But
Well, anyways, our determination was that
you have a
the,
much more photographic memory than I. So
yeah, and really, I mean, our determination was that based on a layout like this, that the way provided access to the lot.
right, exactly. I mean, that's really why we. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still. I agree that this is in the spirit of what we looked at. I don't know if it's the exact plan, but it's. The road's where it's supposed to be, and the property line's where it's supposed to be, and that's kind of what matters with us, right? So.
Can I just add one thing, Imai?
Yes.
In addition to these plans that you found from 2019, David Clennert from Collins also sent to the planning department plans dated 2020 that I sent over to you too. So I think it's the plan that's headed to Concom, but do you have those on your screen as well?
Well, I probably do.
I sent them over earlier today too.
Yep.
Nice to hear from you, Suzanne.
Yes, thanks.
No,
And
not
a
in
letter
here.
too. It also came with a letter from David Clennert. So I'm not sure which plan now
Let me pull these up here.
to the board to. And hard copies are sitting in the office too of these new plans from David Clennert.
So.
I'm not sure if they're different.
I gotta turn the AC on. It's getting hot in here. I usually work in the dark by this time of night.
All right, let's see.
see.
The cover letter too.
Oh, these are the,
Well, I know it says plan submitted. The one I saw today is plan submitted to Concom. There are 2 sheets and it's a later
not
date.
this one.
And there's a cover letter from David Clennert.
That's not this one that I just got today.
I just know that the plan, oh, I had it here. The plan had a date of 2020 on it. The 2 sheets.
Yeah, this is the same. This is the same as what was as what was in the files that,
Really?
yeah.
The one I have date is February 20th, 2020. Plan to accompany notice of intent and building permit application with a cover, David Center.
I don't have those.
Okay, they're in the electronic file, but two.
Oh, okay, on
Under
the
Reardon
town.
Way. Yeah, under Reardon Way.
On the
Just, yeah,
oh, that's a,
I just thought I sent them over today.
no, because what was given to us was the, well, at least what was given to me and uploaded for this was the original plans that they used. They didn't, at least again, give me the plans for
Get it to that fast.
of what they're giving to Concom. So those are going to be in the Concom folder, right?
Under permits and reviews,
Oh, it's going to be it's in ours. Okay.
under planning. I thought I sent the link or the pathway. Reardon Way Lot 3. I don't know if you want to look at that plan tonight or not, but it has a different date than you. It's a later plan.
All right. Let me.
And it's 2 sheets.
Projects by Street, Reardon Way, Lot 3. Okay.
I should have sent it to everybody.
No worries here. Let me just here.
And it's under in a folder, new submitted materials for declutter.
Yep.
That came in the last few weeks.
Let's check this out. Just to be sure here. No, this is the same one. Okay.
Well, if they're with the Conservation Commission, why don't we just have the applicant upload to our site, whatever, if there are any changes to the plan, so we can see it.
Okay. That's,
I mean, because maybe would we have to sign this if we were talking about the turnaround and remember? Now I remember that we talked about the turnaround in the front for the fire engine turnaround.
yeah, they did do.
So I don't know if we were eventually going to sign something once it actually went through the Conservation Commission, but maybe it was more
It
than
doesn't
just a-
look like it by
Yeah.
the record on this, by the correspondence. It looks
Okay.
like it was just
Yeah.
correspondence saying it was determined that it was.
Okay. Well, maybe we should just look at whatever updated plan they feel like they plan on using. We should look at it to make sure that it still provides, safe access.
Okay.
I mean, that way, if they made changes, then we'll see them.
Then we'll see them. Okay.
Yeah.
We can do that. Yeah, these
That's okay.
don't look.
I think we should sit here and watch Ema go through all his files.
I know, isn't that entertaining?
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
I mean,
Watch it again and again on ECAT.
Yeah. We'll just have them give us what they expect to use, and then we can look at that. So,
Okay. We'll ask them for one more round on this.
yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. Moving on from that fun little exercise.
So now, where'd my agenda go? We have, here we go. So that was, so now we have 290 Turnpike Street, minor modification of existing site plan. Is there anyone
So
present?
let me bring in some folks here. Hold on. I think this is going to be Nick. I'm going to bring him in here. And is it coming in? Yep. Okay, good. And let's see. Nick, is there anyone else I need to bring in for this project?
Yeah, Scott Rogers.
Scott Rogers?
Yes,
Okay.
and Billy Papadopoulos, if he's online.
Okay. All right, I think I have all of you folks in here now. Okay. Nick, you are here.
Yes,
Do you want to tell us go over your request? This is,
if Scott Rogers is online, I'm going to let him lead us off.
Yep, I'm
Okay.
here. All right, for the record, my name is Scott Rogers, JK Engineering. And with me tonight is Nick Marioni, the general contractor, as well as the owner of the property, Billy Papadopoulos, I believe. So the original site plan was approved back in 2017, and the construction now is almost entirely complete. We are looking to make a minor modification to the existing site plan approval. And basically that consists of two items. One is on the southern side of the building, the southwestern side of the building. We're looking to reduce the size of the trash enclosure and relocate it approximately 20 feet to the northeast. That'll enable us to gather or gain 3 more parking spaces over in that corner. The second change to the site plan will be the existing island that is being highlighted right now. We're proposing to reduce the size of that. Again, we need more parking on the property, so we're going to reduce the size of that island, still keep a landscaped island in between the 2 parking bays. Right now on site, the island is about 5 by 30. We're looking to enlarge that, double the size of that to 5 by 60. And again, the purpose of these changes is mostly to gain parking spaces back. We did get some comments from the town staff, specifically Conservation and Building Department. And we made some revisions to the plan, which you're looking at now. I'll go through those briefly. We did add 2 guardrails to the plan. Those were put in on our, our design expense, if you will, for safety reasons. Those were added to the plan just to show the location of them. The original design of the island that we talked about had 4 trees in there. Because of the length of it, we need to basically take one of those trees and kind of shift it in a southwesterly direction. So that tree is shown on the site plan as well. It was requested that we look into some screening for the previous trash enclosure area where the new parking spaces are going on the southern side. So we added plantings consisting of some eastern white pines. Some small additional changes we made. We added 1 additional accessible parking space along the western side of the building. That's designated with the letter E on the plan. And last but not least, we did add 1 more parking space in an area that's designated as F. So we gained another parking space over there. So that essentially is the changes we made to the site plans. And I believe at this point, I'll turn it over to Nick. He had a couple of additional comments he'd like to make as well.
Yeah, as you're probably aware, because we've discussed it previously, we have the South Shore Baseball Academy, who took 4 of the units. And one of the reasons we were asking for this is that many of the tenants we're talking about renting space have parking requirements that we're concerned whether or not we're going to be able to meet. So that's why we're looking to increase our parking on the site. The other thing is, in talking with all the badges from the building department, he is concerned as to whether or not we're going to be able to occupy the building if we haven't finished all the work shown on the existing original site plan, which means paving and landscaping. We're hoping tonight to discuss that the board doesn't have it. We have the binder down, obviously. I'm sure many of you have been out there. We have the binder down. We're working on getting ready to put the top coat in, but we're going to be looking for a certificate of occupancy for that first tenant prior to doing the top coat of pavement. And we'll stripe the parking spaces and then restripe them when we top coat it a few weeks after the tenant moves in. But we're hoping that the board doesn't have a problem with a temporary certificate of occupancy for that first tenant space. So I guess that's our presentation with feedback on the couple of changes we have in the question I just asked.
Okay, so, oh, Imai, did you have something?
I just wanted to pull up a couple of pictures that I took out on site so you folks can kind of see what the site looks like right now. That's the landscape island right there, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nick.
No, that's correct.
That's going around the side of the building to transformer. So, and this is going around the back of the building, heading down toward the wetlands. So, but mostly, you know, I wanted you folks to look at the change to the site as it's been built with the parking, with just this smaller landscape island, and consider that as we can't really do site visits now, I thought you should at least have some photos of it to work with.
So, yeah, all right, can I go now, Imai, or you still
Yes.
Go? All right. So, Mr. Rogers, hold up, bear with me. So, guys, I guess I'm kind of, I think we're a pretty easy board to work with, but I'm kind of perplexed as to why there seems to be actually a lot more changes than I was led to believe on here. And I guess I'm kind of wondering why. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but as I look at the documents, so the original, so we had a landscape island that was about 60 by 50. And you, without coming to the board, took that out and originally the site plan had 36 parking spaces, I think. You now want 52. You relocated the dumpster. The dumpster had a fence enclosure around it, but now instead of the fence, you want to put just white pines?
No.
Or you're still going to keep the fence?
Yeah, still have a fence.
And then when I refer to the approved plan, sheet C5, and I remember we spent a lot of time on this with the applicant at his direction. And so is this landscaping plan still going to happen, or are you now proposing to replace it with sheet C1 dated 4/8/20?
No, I'm not looking to propose any additional changes to that plan other than the 4 trees that would be affected by that island. So the rest of the plans in that set are still valid.
Yeah, can I jump in here for a second too? Yeah, we're not looking to make any changes to the landscape plan. We're looking, we're just seeing in the picture out there about how we built the island. That's the way we paved it in anticipation that we may be able to get this changed. It's just as easy for us to take that asphalt out. In fact, we've already got it painted where it has to come out should you not agree with us that parking is important here. But that larger landscape island not only creates less parking spaces, it also makes it difficult for trucks to make that big turn and to get to the back. So we weren't being presumptuous. We're not finished, and we just knew we were coming in to ask for this, and just so please don't think that we were trying to anticipate your approval in something. We're asking for it now.
So I guess I'm confused then, just in terms of process. Why isn't there a plan? That shows basically everything that was approved, all the landscaping and then these changes that you want to make? Like, where's there a document that tells me what you just said? I don't have that.
I think it's the plan that we submitted for this minor modification shows the changing of the large island to a different shape, longer, narrower island, adding parking spaces. And with that, it shows us proposing to move the dumpster and putting trees, shrubs around where the dumpster was before, but still fencing in the dumpster, just in a little bit different location to the left of Scott. If you can put that plan up again. Showing, and when we did that and added the spaces, it required an additional handicap space because we went over the limit for 2, we had to add a third one, so that's added. And to show you that we weren't trying to get less trees in the big island, we showed 3 of the 4, and the 4th one is in the big landscape area. If Scott could put the pointer on that, I don't know how to do that from here. So we put the 4th tree out where the other landscaping is going. So we're not taking any trees out. We're adding parking spaces, changing the shape of the landscape island and moving the dumpster 20 feet to the left.
Okay, so we're gonna need a plan that, or I don't care if you noted on C1 or what, it's just kind of odd how this was done, but that plan, that, especially where you're at the landscaping portion of the program. So I guess I don't understand why C5 just wasn't redone. So at least if we were to approve this, I'm not speaking for the board, but just for myself, I'd at least want added on here a note that, all of the landscaping other than those 4 trees that you just mentioned are still going to happen per the original design.
Of course.
Because it just didn't tell me that anywhere. To me, when I read C1, it looks like, oh, you want to do, those 4 trees and some trees around your dumpster. It doesn't refer back.
In fact, most of the shrubs are ordered and we're just waiting for delivery on the shrubs and the trees right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all electronic. Why don't you just submit a new plan set that we can sign and then it'll be clear what we reapproved. I mean, is it just 2 sheets you have to add in?
There's 9 sheets in the set.
Right, yeah, but you don't have to change the whole set. You just have to, well, you have to make a few updates to each set, but you're trying to avoid updating the whole set. Is that?
Well, I guess that's what we thought we were doing with this. This is the sheet we're looking to change, and I thought we put it on here where we were trying to make the change to be.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to make it difficult. We're trying to work with you, but all I'm saying is on sheet C1, if this is how you want to do it, then there needs to be a note on here that says the original approved C5 from 12/1/16 is still in effect, however you want to word that, because this plan doesn't tell me that.
Okay, so I
I
see.
just want to make sure if the boards, and I'm not speaking for the board. They may have an issue with this change parking. I'm just saying, I read this to be, wow, they're not doing any of the other landscaping. So I need something that tells me you're doing the other landscape.
Okay, can we hear the other comments first before we
Yep.
summarize?
Yeah, so
Go ahead, please.
board members, anybody out there?
I agree with Greg. Like, if we were to approve this plan, it doesn't necessarily say all the other landscaping is going to be done. So that one comment, or if we adjust the previous drawing, however that's done, I think that's what we want to sign. As far as the parking, I understand you guys need the use. You added an additional handicap spot. I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of the original point of the island was that you didn't want to put any landscaping along the building. So we said, okay, we'll put an island in. But I mean, with the baseball use, I see why you need more parking, and at least you're keeping some trees in the middle there. And what's the first tenant that wants to move in for the occupant?
Well, the baseball place should be ready for him to move in a couple of weeks. That's why I was concerned about
Yeah,
you not having, this board not having a problem with partial certificates of occupancy
Mhm.
because we haven't paved and finished the landscaping yet.
right, yeah.
So,
And then you expect to get the rest of that done, by over the summer, is that the plan?
oh yeah, we were just waiting to find out how the board was going to vote on this because we didn't want to
Oh, I
pave
see,
it
right, yeah.
and then have to
Okay.
cut it up. So we're ready to go soon. We just need to know what we're doing out there. And,
Yeah,
and
just work with the, with the planner, just to make sure that we have the right plan set, so everything makes sense if, when we look
Oh,
at it
so-
down the line.
the board doesn't feel comfortable approving the changes with the proviso that all the original landscaping and the rest of the site is the same. This is all we're changing.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Um,
I had a question.
go ahead, Deb.
I don't know if you're, so what is the occupant load for the baseball tenant that you're proposing?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but
I guess how many total occupants do you anticipate for the baseball tenant that you said is likely moving in here?
well, he typically teaches classes of 10 to 12. That's his
So
typical
under
class size.
under 50. So
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, it's not uncommon though for them to maybe have 20 kids at least 20 kids at their existing place, right?
Well, they could have a class finishing up and another one starting, a different
Yeah,
age.
because I mean, even when two baseball teams, I think, if two baseball teams were practicing, in the spring, so that might be, like 24 kids plus a couple of coaches, so that's 25, 26. Yeah, so
I
maybe
guess
like
just-
20, maybe 20 cars per, right? Plus some staff, so that would be like 25 or 30 cars.
Yeah, they're coming and going quickly, but we still need parking for people temporarily.
Yeah.
what is the civil engineer basing the parking lot requirement on? What use group?
There's no specific guidelines in the bylaw, but we
Well,
feel
it's
like
not the bylaw, but it would be in the code. If you're an
Yeah,
assembly use or if you're a business use.
well, again, as Nick had pointed out, a lot of the occupants of the building are students. So it's really a lot of the coaches and then dropping off people. So with the additional spaces that we have now, I think we're up to 53.
51, I think, but we don't think we have a problem with the baseball tenant with parking. We're talking to other tenants that we're concerned we wouldn't be able to take them if we don't get the extra parking.
I guess I'm just wondering, and I'm going to say it incorrectly. Is it Imu? How do you say
Imai,
your name?
yes.
Imai. I'm sorry. I'm going to get that right.
No worries.
We're approving a site plan which includes parking, yet the use groups for the building are unknown or unclear to me at this time. And depending on what the use group is, changes the parking requirement.
Well, if I could jump in here, on their plan, Deb, on the revised plan, so they have a parking schedule, which refers to the old bylaw, but old sections, but the same numbers. They used retail and manufacturing, and they used one space for every 1,000 square feet, and they have 19,800. You could also make the case that you could say, business in here, which would be one for every 500 per our bylaw. So you'd be looking at, either 20 or 40 spaces required. As you know, in the past, we've been working towards actually reducing pavement, but they're looking to go to 53. So using either any of those two different scenarios under our bylaw, they are in excess of what's required, if that helps.
And also to answer the previous question, this particular tenant, we did receive a special permit from the zoning board for this use. So they use the term.
Except for the use is being changed. Is that incorrect? Am I understanding this incorrectly?
No, we're not changing the use at all. The one use for the tenant we have that's going in a couple of weeks was allowed in this zone by special permit. The zoning board of appeals granted that special permit a couple of months ago.
But wasn't that based on, Greg, I can't see the table right now, but wasn't it supposed to be like contractor bays originally?
That's what the original plan was for, yes.
Right.
So
Yeah,
the use is different.
So we can have a revised, site plan review on a change of use. This is sort of maybe site plan review light to get things, moving along for you, and you just have some quick changes. But I mean, I think if, when there is a change of use, we could, go through site plan review, I think, if we thought we needed to.
You could. I mean,
But I think, I looked at this, I think if, depending on how you want to define this use, the most parking requirement you're going to come up with is 1 for every 500 square feet.
Yep.
And
What is that based on, Greg?
that is based on our bylaw, the parking regs for retail and
But
business.
it's not a retail. It's not
Retail,
retail.
okay,
So
let
it's
me
either going to be
finish.
assembly or business.
I said retail,
Sorry.
business, and manufacturing, if you let me finish.
Sorry. So 1 per 500 if it's business. Except for that if it's assembly, which would be more than 50 occupants, it potentially could be different.
Nick, how many square feet is the batting cage company, for lack of a?
It's 7,200 square feet.
break it up that way.
And I don't think you could, I don't think I'd really call that assembly.
Well, yeah, assembly
But
goes
as
by
more than-
seat.
So the activity that's happening in there would fall under assembly. But if it's less than 50 people total, then it would be classified as business.
The table of use calls it recreation indoors. And it's different from recreation outdoors, but it's also, we also have a variance from the state for the plumbing code that says that our use wouldn't have more than 25 people. Because we would have had to put more bathrooms in. So we got a variance from the state plumbing code. And we get a special permit from the zoning board of appeals. So the use is an allowed use in that zone. And it didn't require any additional parking. It didn't require any additional bathrooms or any other additional requirements for that use.
Yeah, so I think if the occupant load remains under 50 people and you're saying 25, then there isn't an issue. The table that Greg mentioned would be applicable.
We're not looking for any variance for the number of parking spaces. We're looking for the variance we're looking for a minor modification of our site plan to just change the layout so we can add a few parking spaces in anticipation of tenants who may have more parking requirements. And what we're afraid of too, because we've seen it at other properties, if you don't have enough parking, they're going to park on the lawn. They're going to park on that island.
I do think they have enough parking. I mean, my question with this is, this is an addition of how much more hardscape and asphalt where there was supposed to be
Right, that was my issue.
landscaping, and that was the intent of the board to have, some larger, more significant island of landscaping. Granted, it's still called out for trees, but they were more spaced and less blacktop. What is the quantifiable or qualitative impact of that change? Is that okay with the board, and what was originally put under the site plan
My
approval
question
criteria
for
here?
that, best I can tell, the original island was 3,000 square feet, 60 by 50. And if I'm not mistaken, you're saying this new one is 5 feet wide, 5 feet deep, and it's 7 parking spaces, so 70, so 350. So my question to both the planner and the engineer is, does this affect, I know this went through peer review, but is that substantial enough change on stormwater management?
No. First of all, I want to point out to you guys that on the existing site that you approved, it was about 62.1% green space. Under the new proposal, it's like 61.9% green space. There's a lot of green space on this property. And with the additional couple hundred square feet of pavement that you're talking about, those oversized basins might rise up, you know, a quarter of an inch. I mean, it's nothing, negligible.
So how did you add green space? I'm confused.
No, we didn't. We went from 62.1 to 61.9. So we lost a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 62% green space is a lot more than anywhere else you'll find in.
So
town.
Deb, back to Deb, is your concern that I'm not sure what your concern is, that there's not enough parking, or?
Well, my concern is that we're looking at a site plan with parking spaces, whether we agree that there's more pervious pavement or less, or the island is a different shape, is based on how many parking spaces they're adding. And I'm just saying there's a requirement based on different use groups, and the use group has changed. And if it's an assembly space, that's different than a contractor-based space. And it's, so I guess I just want clarification on how, like, the site plan by the civil engineer should show what use group this is under and what the required parking and proposed parking are for the current proposed use group. And secondly, I think that if they're adding parking, whether they want to or it's required, I think that it's also reasonable for us to consider other ways to mitigate the pavement.
So to your first point, and I'll let Imai or the engineer, I mean, they do have what you requested on their plan. I read it earlier. If you know, and again, this doesn't go to the code. Our plan needs to go to our bylaw, not the building code. I understand your point, but, and then don't forget, we're only talking, what, 7,200 square feet, I think, Mr. Marioni said? In the future.
The 20 to 7,200.
Right,
yes.
in the future, for the remaining, 12,000 square feet plus or minus, if someone were to come in for an assembly use, they would have to go for a variance to the ZBA. And then, for example, if someone wanted to come in and do a church, then parking may become an issue. That would be an issue for the variance. I'm thinking back to our comments when we were requested for comments to the ZBA, and the ZBA's decision, having watched the meeting, they were comfortable with the amount of parking given the use as batting cages. So if you want to see something different than the retail and manufacturing, you want, what do you think it should be?
It's not, yeah, it's not retail manufacturing. If they're using it as a space for sport recreation, then it's either an assembly space, or if it's less than 50 occupants, it would be considered a business space. So, and that's something that even if we approve it based on whatever they do, that would be something else that the building inspector could potentially pick up on and, want to see revised, which I realize is out of our purview, but I'm just saying the use for the project we approved is changed.
No, the use has not changed. This is an allowable use. This is an allowable
I'm not
use.
saying,
The
I'm
use
not-
part has changed.
I'm not
That's why you
arguing
got a
that.
variance. So Deb, let's back up. I just don't want to get caught on this.
Yeah.
So if you were to go back and watch the meetings of the variance, so if you were to read the correspondence from the building inspector, you would see they agree it's under an occupancy load of 25. And that's why it kicks into business. That's why I brought that up earlier. But so, and I
Yeah, and there's no
did
issue.
the whole building for the purposes of tonight, just to get through it, showing that even if the whole building was business at 500, at one space per 500 square feet, that would be what, 39 spaces, give or take. They're still above that at 53.
What would it be if it was assembly though?
It's not.
But again,
It's hard to count because assembly is per seats.
right, and it's
Assembly is 1 per 5 seats.
which hasn't been, other than the batting cages, a variance that has been.
It just doesn't fit in with our bylaw anywhere perfectly, because they had to get the variance for the use, and our parking regulations don't specifically address this use. So we just have to we have to work with it. We can talk about which use we think is the closest match, but none of them really are. And that would just, we can have a conversation now if we want to talk about how we should classify these now and going forward, but it's not called out in the zoning bylaw really directly.
All I'm saying is I'm fine with if it's been approved for 25 and that's what the occupant load is going to be, and we meet the parking, which sounds like, if anything, they're trying to add more than the required parking, which my concern was more that they don't have enough parking. So assuming that that's the case, then I don't have an issue with it. But like Greg, you said, if this was a church going in the last, 12,000 square feet, maybe it'd be a different story. Well, like a recreation use, an assembly use for a sports recreation type facility that they're suggesting in a church are both assembly use. So I'm just pointing that out, but I don't think we need to get hung up on it. If it's been approved for 25, let's just go with that. And I think that if we're going with 25, then if we would like to see our island look more like our original island, then we should go back to a reduced amount of parking so they can enlarge their island.
So,
I think that is the question to address.
right, the question is, and the result of the change we're looking for is a very insignificant amount of additional pavement. And the benefit is more parking spaces, so we don't have people potentially parking on the landscape island or on the lawn area. If we, and we are talking to several tenants, hoping that we are going to fill the place up pretty soon. A lot of people are on hold with decisions for the next month or so to see what happens with the phasings of openings again.
Nick, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Would we consider perhaps making the island a couple feet bigger on each side? We have a little bit of flexibility, not a ton, but we could make it a little bit bigger on each side of it.
Yeah, and the owner has expressed a desire to make it even longer, so we could go 80 feet long instead of 60. And we could go 6 or 7 feet wide instead of the 5, which would be less pavement, still give us the parking we want. And we could even put the fourth, if we went 80 feet long, we could either put the fourth tree back in that island.
I think aesthetically that would look better just seeing the whole strip. If it's the way it's drawn now, it stops 2/3 the way through the.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, but. Yeah.
Well, it stops on the left end closest to Route 138 because the truck needing that radius to make the turn. Towards the building is where we would extend it, towards the building from 60 feet to 80 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
Your room in there to do that.
Oh, so that, right, yeah, so that rectangle isn't actually indicative of where you plan to put the island?
Hey, say that again, please?
So is that thin rectangle the new proposed island?
No, the large rectangle was the old proposed island. The long strip is the new one.
No, that's what I mean, yeah, the strip, yeah, sorry, I called it a rectangle, but that's more of a strip.
Yeah.
Right, okay, and so you're saying you can extend the strip towards the building?
Towards the
entire length
building,
of the parking
another 20
spots?
feet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be even nicer.
Yes.
That's what I want.
And then the light fixture that falls sort of towards the middle of that island, or new island.
Yeah, it's already in place right now.
Can you point to where that is about, or which tree? Just tell me which tree it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably in the middle of that 60 foot now. Yeah.
Right, so you can just put kind of the trees kind of separated around from that so that the
Yes,
light does this job for the kids.
yeah, that makes sense. Spread them out, like, whatever. We're not looking to have less trees than what we had originally.
Yeah.
So I guess what we're asking is if the board will agree that this is a minor modification to make it 80 feet long by 6 or 7 feet wide. Make the landscaping, the balance of the landscaping on the site exactly the way it was in the approved plan, and allow us to move the dumpster to the new location and put shrubs around the old location as shown on this plan.
So is this the last plan we're gonna see? Is this the plan we would end up signing? Is that what you're asking for? Just to accept this plan and sign that with a?
No, this isn't gonna be signed. What we'd have to do, I'd accept a motion to approve the plan with the changes
Noted
agreed
earlier.
to, and then that plan could be submitted, you know, that, so they could continue to move forward. That plan would be submitted to Imai's office, and we would then sign it at our next meeting. And the only tree that I see as an issue, you have a tree, looking back at the original landscape plan, you have a tree right
The new
where you're
dumpster.
putting the dumpster now. So I'm assuming we can all agree right now, so we can just be done with this, that tree is just gonna move southeast and just be behind the dumpster enclosure.
Correct.
Sure.
And we're gonna have the exact same, nothing else is gonna change landscaping wise on this.
No, nothing else will change.
Why don't we just get 2 sheets? We'll get the new site layout and the new landscaping plan showing the new trees on the new island and anything other changes. Just 2 sheets. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, that's reasonable. And that needs to be done because we need to memorialize it.
Right, yeah. Okay, so I'll make a motion to consider this a minor modification. And also, as part of the motion, to approve the modification, given the 2 new sheets
Second,
provided.
Anderson, second.
Any further discussion? Is there anyone from the general public? Hearing none. All those in favor, Strange, aye.
Dan, aye.
Anderson, aye.
That's an aye.
Sarah guy.
And
Do
are
we
we
get
finished with that? I just wanted to ask one other question. We're unrelated to that vote. When you finished.
Yeah, that's finished.
Okay.
Okay, so the other question I had asked was about how does this board feel about certificates of occupancy when the final pavement and the landscaping isn't finished yet? Because we're hoping to move a tenant in within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And now we have to get this plan submitted back to you, get it signed, and then we can proceed with the work the way it's now approved, even though we've already ordered a lot of the landscape materials.
I'm fine with that, but I want to, given the structure that we have with staff, professional staff, I'm going to defer to them. We've never had that request before, and we don't have a process in our bylaw that allows us to, to approve things for occupancy.
Yeah.
There are some, there are talks about going out. So I'm just thinking that, unless anybody in the board objects, I'd leave that up to the staff to deal with.
The only reason I'm bringing it up to the board is because the building inspector has mentioned it in emails to me, and on site on an inspection recently brought it up again, saying that we can't occupy the building till everything shown in the approved site plan is completed. Now, I've been doing these buildings in town for a long time, and I've even the one right across the street, Schoolhouse Plaza, we were moving tenants in and paved after all the tenants moved in, landscaped in the spring. We were moving the tenants in over the winter.
Okay, so refresh my memory. I know you said you were going to stripe this. Obviously, you'd stripe the spaces for ADA. Are there any handicap ramps that need to be
Oh
installed?
yeah, the ramps are already in. Guardrails are all up, all safety requirements are in place. It's just top coat pavement and landscaping. That's
So
all
there's
it
no
is.
lip at the bottom of the ramp? There won't be a safety issue?
No, it's a less than 1.5 inch lip. And if we had to, we could throw a
It's untied over there.
cold patch on it so that somebody could get the ramp until we get the top coat in.
So board members, what do you think? I mean, I'm okay with that, I guess, I still would defer to the professional staff, just if there are safety issues.
Yeah.
I don't want us signing off, if a handicap ramp's not done or something, but
Yeah,
if binder's not down and final landscaping's not in, I'm okay with that as long as it's not safety issues.
Right.
I mean, I think that all comes to what has to be ultimately comes to Kevin Griner's call. I mean, if he's not comfortable signing off on this as a whole, and and particularly site safety features, if he's looking to us to say, are you guys okay, giving a partial occupancy to this one use without the landscaping going in, and you guys say that's fine, then I'll sign off on that part. But if Kevin's not okay with other parts of the site that aren't necessarily related to what we do, I wouldn't sign. I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah, so I think what we can do to help out, and again, board chime in if you disagree, but I'd authorize EMI to, send a letter to Kevin or converse with Kevin saying that planning board is fine with just the binder down and with the landscaping not done. But my caveat is to Mr. Rogers, let's get the plans that we need are really simple. So I would feel much better, even though the board's not meeting together for 2 weeks, if we could get those to EMI in the next couple of days, because I know there has been concern on the building department's end. That way, that plan's in, he can say, hey, this is what the planning board wants, but they can't, they won't sign off for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Get them-
and if we were to send a letter, to the building inspector, then maybe we could mention that, we would still want the parking and the parking spots and top coat and at least certain landscaping aspects done within a couple months.
Okay. Well, I think it also is going to depend too on how Kevin is willing to or can structure his occupancy. If it's just for the 2 bays that this baseball school is going to occupy, then that may be fine. And the next ones we'll have to look at.
Let me ask the board. So board members, are you okay with planning board, authorizing EMI to say, temporary occupancy for this first space, pending final pavement and landscaping? Does everybody have any issues with that?
I think this issue is completely under the jurisdiction of the building inspector, and it's completely his call. I think if he were to go back and say, I'm on the fence, how does the planning board feel about it? That's like a different
that's
question. I think
let me fill you. That's where we're at. That's the situation.
So I think that it's not uncommon for the building inspector to issue a partial certificate of occupancy. And I think that if he felt that that was appropriate, that he would go ahead and do so and doesn't necessarily need the requirement of our board to do so.
Right, but the reality of it is he's asking for that. So are we okay with it? Obviously, not the safety issues, just the pavement and the landscaping, because those are the items that aren't complete per our approved plan. That's what he's asking us.
You mean the applicant, not the building inspector?
No.
No, I mean the building inspector.
Yes.
The building inspector is actually asking us.
Yes.
That's unusual. I think that the main issue is what, oh my gosh. So EMI, did I say it right?
Yes.
Brought up, which would be or maybe you brought it up, Greg. It would be the binder course and the transition from the not having the top layer and the ramp. But I would, if the building inspector believe that transition was safe for partial occupancy, I don't have an objection.
Any other board members have an objection?
No objection.
I'm here.
I do have one member of the public asking to talk right now.
Okay, so just before you do that, so I just want to, so the board, right? So we're okay giving a thumbs up to a temporary occupancy without the binder and landscaping with the
Top
caveats
coat,
that
yeah.
a few of us had pointed out. I'm not
Correct.
missing.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so Imai, that, you've got that. Now feel free to go ahead to the public.
Okay.
And no.
Gonna allow, it's listed as Kathleen Perrin, but I'm going to believe it's actually Scott Perrin here. Or Mark Perrin, who's listed next to it. Mark, can you go ahead and talk? Can we hear you?
He's muted.
You are muted, Mark. But you do have your hand raised. Oh, your hand just went down.
Nope.
No question, I take it? Or
Hello?
hello? Okay, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the board and to the applicant. Again, I did attend the meeting at the ZBA, the applicant proposed for this new type of
Can this
zoning,
person identify themselves?
hypothetically, for the baseball facility, and I was actually pro it as long as it stayed an indoor facility. Now, I have pre-sold homes. I'm a direct abutter. I have pre-sold homes on the premise of what has been approved by the board at this project, which did not include the 3 spaces directly behind my 2 or 3 of my lots, and including when they added the additional 8 spaces, the 8 spaces that were directly in front of the spot of the old landscape plan, when those cars would back out, those lights would not flash bad through the trees into my client's parking lots. I'm sorry, backyards. So I want to work with the applicant, and I'm even proposing, I see that they're proposing adding 5 white pines. They mentioned no size on them. I'm willing to propose to the applicant, the board, that I will, at my expense, on that 6-foot buffer zone, shoulder, next to the additional parking that's already existing, but they're adding the parking, not just the dumpster area, that we build a dirt berm right along that to protect my clients that I've sold that these parking, they weren't parking spaces. So my big problem is I got an additional 3 right behind my lots, 3 spots on clients that I've sold homes to that said those aren't parking spaces, that's a dumpster area. And then I have an additional 13 spots that by reconfiguring the landscape island are now going to be backing out and shooting their lights right at the backyards of my clients. And I told them that that's part of what that landscape buffer was doing on those 8 spaces more in front of the building. So I'm willing to offer the applicant, the board, everybody at my expense, I can build the berm on their property. And if they're willing to just work with me or my clients, if not, I'm withholding information to the clients I've sold houses to that these lights would not be on this.
I need to address this. So that first of all, we can't build a berm there. That's a drainage swale. We can't fill it in with a berm. And secondly, Mark, I'm just really disappointed that you're speaking up against anything to do against what we're doing, which is an allowed use in this zone, when you're doing something that's not allowed in this zone because you're going to come up with a permit to do it.
Thank you.
Hey, Nick, in all due respect, Nick, okay, you do residential and commercial, okay, and you sell to clientele. I was pro this baseball facility at the ZBA meeting. I'm still pro it, but I have sold homes, Nick, with what was approved on this original site. I want to work. If someone just tells me we're going to put more trees up along this area, so when these people back out of those 3 spots or back out of those new 13 spots, the light's not going to directly affect the backyards of my clients' homes. I think that's reasonable, Nick.
I think the shrubs will knock down the light that would shine towards you. And I think this is, if I were buying a house back there, I'd rather have 3 parking spaces than 3 dumpsters.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, the dumpster capacity hasn't changed, Nick, okay? So, and again, it's not a matter of that. It's what I told my clientele. You understand that, right, Nick?
Yeah.
You do?
Well, look, Billy.
I want to work with Billy, okay? I have the utmost respect for his success, and I want him to be successful here. I'm asking simply for more trees because they're being removed to add the 13 spaces that when those cars back out in the wintertime, okay, and that's when baseball facilities are the busiest, aren't directly going into my clients' backyards. If not, I have to endure the expense of additional buffering. And I want to work with Billy.
You're already offering to pay for it.
Billy,
I offer to bill. I offer to at my expense to do the buffer zone. I guess we can't do that. It's a swale. I have a swale too. Okay. All right. I'd like to work with you to work together on planting it. I'll plant the trees. You've already offered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're moving one maple.
Nick,
I'm
tell
just
him to put them
looking.
on his land.
What's that?
Billy, you want to put a little fence up there or something? Or?
Well, why can't he put the trees on his land and in the backyard?
I am going to, but your grade is so much higher, Bill. That's why it's the buffer would work better there. I'd like to work something out where if we can't do it because of the swale, because I do have a swale too, Nick, on my property. It's going back to my detention area, just like yours. Okay. Yeah. I'd like to set it up where we beyond what you've already proposed with planning, we at mutual expense along that shoulder, just add those many more pine trees, and what height do we agree upon? That's all I'm asking.
Mark, hi, this is Mark Papadopoulos. There
Hi, how
are
are you?
good. There are already 5 trees that are going to be blocking that area.
And again, Mrs. Papadopoulos, my only concern is by moving that big island, reconfiguring that landscape island.
That island, if anything, the building's blocking most of it. And
look, I think.
Well, the island that was proposed.
You want to add 5 more shrubs there and we can just make this.
Yeah, that's fine. You want to add 5 more shrubs? If we can fit them in, we have no problem.
I want to work with you guys. We'll split the difference. I'd rather go more for your sake and mine.
Okay,
why can't you just put trees on the backyard on the whole line?
I am doing that, but my elevation, I had the same situation that I have a swale there. So I got to plant them upland, and I get very, based on my approval.
I want to jump in here for a second. Mr. Rogers, are you still with us?
I'm here.
So as I listen to this banter, I'm looking at, I just noticed that when Imai flashed the plan that showed the buffer zone, the bushes or shrubs that you're proposing around the former location of where the 3 parking spaces are, looks like most of them are in the 50-foot buffer. So my question is,
no, not anymore.
Something that's going to have to be approved by Concom? Is this going to hold up our whole land?
That wetland's actually been removed. That wetland no longer exists. That was filled by our abutter with the permit.
Oh, okay.
So that wetland's no longer there. That buffer zone is no longer there.
All right, thank you.
So we'll add more shrubs with, we'll split the shrubs with the abutter with Mark.
But again, Nick, what are we proposing for size, Nick? You understand?
5 footers. 5 foot, we plant with a 5 foot when we plant them.
And you propose 5. The client just said, again, I'm not looking to cheapen the situation. We need more and we need higher. So my point is.
Why higher? The headlights aren't that high. Headlights aren't higher than 5 feet. You said you were concerned about headlights.
Well, I'm concerned about headlights, yes. But it's not just there, Nick. It's always where that new island's been reconfigured.
Oh, Mark, there was already parking there. It was already.
Yeah, but you had a big island, Nick. So I understand how to read plans, Nick. So it changed. Okay, so you've got 5. I say we split 10 more additional one across that thing. We'll split the cost.
Oh, you're all right with that, Billy?
Yeah.
Just on that shoulder.
Gentlemen, I have another question. Mr. Rogers, the original island had 4 trees in it. Help me out. What type of trees were they?
Those were, I believe, the red maples.
Okay, so here, I believe this is Mr. Perrin we have?
Yes.
Headlights are 2 feet off the ground. Red maple isn't going to block any light. So going back to that island, I just want to move this along. If you guys are negotiating, I wish you would do it on your own time, frankly. We have other.
You're right.
But those 4, looking at the original plan, those 4 trees we're not going to produce, or we're going to provide very, very little screening because what were they? A 2 or 3 inch caliper tree. They're maples. They weren't evergreen, so they weren't blocking the headlights. So
I believe that anybody that needs
the new
privacy.
condition doesn't create the new design doesn't create a situation that wasn't there. In fact, it blocks it a little more because now there are evergreens around the parking spaces where there was a dumpster enclosure.
Correct. And again, it's appreciated that they offered that because I know there was other departments that said the same exact thing. That's why they were added from the original submitted plan, added those trees, because there is concern for the way the neighborhood adjacent to this property is being built. Again, it's simple as this. I've told clientele up till 2 weeks ago what was going to be there, okay, including houses that are already sold and being built. And now it's changing. I understand it, okay? I understand things are modified. I'm asking to work with the client again. He's already proposed 5, all right? And then they said they'd add 5. I'm saying I'm willing to do more, and I'll chip in to help out.
How about Mark, me and you get together and we'll talk about it.
Well, Tad has
my
partner Tad has the utmost respect for you, Bill, and he says that, you know, and I apologize to everybody. I was trying to chirp in earlier before everything. I just didn't know how to do it.
That's fine, Mr. Prime, but frankly, I really don't want you guys negotiating here. I kind of need you to do that on your own time. So I think I'm ready for my board to vote on this plan. And if it is approved, and if you and Mr. Marioni and his team are able to come up with additional landscaping, it can be added to the plan, and the board can look at it at that time.
Well,
Unless board members say anything different. But it doesn't sound like you guys are going to solve this right now, and I kind of need to move on.
Well, again, in all due respect, Greg, I'm just asking you. I want them to get their CO, temporary CO, so they can start their facility. I have the utmost respect for Bill, so if he's willing to say that he'll work with me, I'm just wondering, does your board have to approve if we add 10 trees?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, well, it would have to be on the revised landscaping plan. But
Yeah, so we actually.
I don't think the board's going to say no to 10 additional trees. We like trees.
So we already approved this proposed modification.
Yep.
So that's actually, we've
Oh,
already.
that's right. We already did that.
It's already done.
That's already
And then
done.
I got lost in this.
Yeah, but if there are more trees that appear on, if there's more landscaping appears on the plan that we're expecting from them, then that's fine with me.
Appreciate it and look forward to dealing with my a butter and working together to make this good for both our facilities.
All right. Good luck,
Give me a call, Mark.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right.
All right. So that concludes our business on 290 Turnpike Street. Unless someone tells me something different in the next 2 seconds. All right. Now we have 277 Turnpike Street, minor modification. Imai, the floor is yours.
All right. For 277 Turnpike Street, this is right across the street from where we just were, in that triangle where Turnpike and Washington split. This is where the pizzeria is proposing to add a freezer. Originally, we ran this by review with the fire department and building noted that this was supposed to be a fire lane. So fire asked that there be, upon reviewing this, fire said, well, let's have this be no parking area so that they have access all around. And then they would be okay with it. So this is the revised site plan as such. Originally, I had looked at this and thought this was small enough that there didn't need to be, that this could be even administratively approved through the board without having to bring it before you folks. But as it does have, did have some review components to it with other agencies and some difficulties there, I thought it best that if the board took a look at this and, made sure that you folks were okay with this addition.
And we get paid double when our meetings go over 2 hours, so we appreciate it.
Awesome.
I think this is going to bring us in. So I'm assuming that the 2 no parking stripe there, that's not eliminating any parking, right? Because it was a fire lane.
No.
Gotcha. So you're just going to add striping, and then there's the letter.
Right.
All right. Seems simple. Any board members have any questions or comments?
So the parking count's not being changed, it's just adding striping.
Correct.
Correct.
Sorry, Imai.
Nope.
I'm good with that.
Anybody in the public? Any hand waving out there? So we're here, this is a minor modification, correct?
Yep.
All right. Who'd like to bring this one home?
Motion to
Motion
approve
minor
the,
modification as shown.
Sorry, Bob.
second.
Seconded, Bob. Yes, there you go.
You get the next one, promise. Is there a second? I did, yeah. Is there any further discussion? No, hearing none, and there's nothing from the public, right, Imai?
No one is raising, no one from the public is.
All those in favor, Strange eye.
DeShane, aye.
Anderson, I.
Stetson, I.
Alstaric, aye.
Hey, guys, did we took a vote on 290, huh?
Yeah.
Did we do the roll? I don't remember. Wow, I've been up since 3 this morning, so like, I don't remember that.
It wasn't a great motion, but we did vote on it. So
Boy, I'm getting old. I got lost in the landscaping discussion, I guess. All right, good. So we're all set. Good luck, ladies and gentlemen, with that. Thanks for coming
Thank
in.
you. Thank you.
Meeting minutes. Do we have any?
Yeah, the 5:11 minutes, I believe, were sent out to you folks.
I missed them, my bad. But I trust you good folks. Anybody, did you guys any review them?
No, I missed it also.
Can we do it at the next meeting?
Sure.
We
Sure.
can.
Peter, we call him.
Sure,
he's
sure.
the dictionary, so. You guys okay pushing this off to the next meeting?
Yep.
Yep.
Suzanne, you're not gonna yell at me?
Sure.
All right, you're the best. Term expirations.
So I believe,
reminder, I guess,
Peter,
right?
your term is expiring, and
Yes.
I am hoping you're coming back on. Is that?
Yeah, I'm planning. I have a few more days to submit my application, so
Okay.
I plan on doing that.
Great. All right.
And who else? Bob?
Almost.
No, I think it's only, I
Nope,
think it's
it's
only
you.
Peter.
No, I spoke with town clerk. There was a mistake somewhere. Amos is expiring.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Amos is not here. We'll have to make sure we get in touch with him.
almost is expiring. You don't want to say that much these days.
As a heads up, you guys, my audio is, my iPods are dying and my computer won't connect to audio. So if you lose me, I'll just give you the
We
thumbs.
need to come back because we're gonna we're
Okay.
almost done. So we're gonna do a little sock puppet thing closing, but chair report. Did I talk to you guys about Sawmill Village at the last meeting?
No, you said you had some news.
So,
No, I
alright,
did
so
not.
I did. I'll just give you kind of an update. As you know, we've worked on this for a little bit, for a lot of it, and we had our joint meeting back pre-virus with Concom, and then there's been a series of meetings with Concom, and unfortunately, even though thinking everything that went into this project in terms of tying things into the master plan and the open space production plan, and housing production plan, and the Five Corners vision, district visioning, and all of the work that we as a board put into it really over 2.5, 3 years, it had started to really significantly change at Concom. Units were being deleted. Then the last version that I saw, the clubhouse, community center, whatever we call it, which was going to be a nice architectural gateway to the project, prominently, at the intersection there, was eliminated because so many units on the Sawmill side had to come out, and then all of a sudden word came down that they were going to only allow front load garages over on the Sawmill side, which really puts a dent in varied architecture, and especially when a building is 32 feet wide and 24 or 26 feet of it is a garage. It is what it is, right? And then the access parking spaces and access to the green space, to the Emerald Necklace, was going to be eliminated. So I started to fret, and as you know, I'm not often called the wallflower. So, anyways, so this coming Thursday, I think, sometime
Thursday.
there's going to be a meeting with town administrator, chair of the board of selectmen, chair of the planning board, director of planning, land use. What's Andrea's assistant director of planning now? I guess I'm trying to think what her title
Yeah,
is.
deputy, yeah,
And the chair of, or I guess the chair
vice chair.
of Concom won't make it, so the vice chair.
Yep.
Because I'm just going in fighting for, I certainly understand protecting wetlands. Certainly understand Easton has a bylaw much stricter than the states. But at the same time, I understand this is a project, as you guys all know, we worked on this with staff, both Concom staff and planning staff. And frankly, the developer was, well, the plans were done, a complete set of plans were done. I think, they didn't just do it on their own. They were, so to suddenly, to see these things changing drastically, which is going to have an effect on the mitigation to the town. This is an important project for a whole bunch of reasons. So I don't understand why, as a community, when we do all these group efforts, why all of a sudden it seemed to go back to square one, like none of these efforts in conversations and agreements had taken place. So I'm going in fighting for that on, I guess, Thursday. So that's why we haven't seen them for a while. But frankly, the developers team reached out to me a few weeks back because they were, there was like, hey, they're going to do what they're told, but they knew the project we had all worked towards. And when I say all, I don't mean just the planning board. I mean every staff member of the planning department and many other boards and many other residents of this town had really started to change. And I think it needs to be pointed out why, there are waivers. We all have waivers in our boards, in our bylaws, and sometimes they're tougher than those, but maybe, and I know sometimes I fret about setting precedent, but sometimes you have to look at a project and all that it's going to bring to a community. And that needs to be part of the equation. So I hope to make that part of the equation. So anyways, that's an update there. Kind of dejecting after having so much time spent on it, but hopefully we can come back together as a community and figure out bring it to a happy place. So anyways, that's my report. Imai, do you have anything?
Something much simpler. We have a meeting scheduled for July 6th. That is right following the 4th of July weekend. For the town, at least, that is not a holiday. The holiday will be that Friday. But I do want to check in and make sure people will be around, if this is worth scheduling a meeting, or are we looking at just having everyone not making quorum, or from your experience personally is just, public applicants not going to be able to show up that weekend and we should just postpone that to the next meeting?
Yeah, hey, I'm fine having. Yeah, I mean, we often have fewer summer meetings, depending, so if
Okay.
we talked about not having a June 1st meeting.
Yeah, so we
Right.
won't have
We
a
said
June
that
1st
publicly to the
meeting because
board,
that's
do we?
next week.
Right.
So the turnaround really just didn't make sense.
Yeah. So no meeting next week, guys.
No meeting next week. Next meeting is June 15th.
Well, maybe we should keep the other one, so that way we have more than 2 meetings in that whole time stretch.
I mean, keep it on the 6th.
I mean, otherwise that's.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The next, yeah.
It's like 6 weeks. That's like one meeting for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, why don't we keep it for now? I mean, if there's nothing on the agenda.
Yeah, keep it open and see if we need it.
If Peter wants to go to the office and have his own meeting.
Yeah. Not just I'll show up
That means
toast.
I have to show
That's
up
a good
if I say
plan.
that now, right? Yeah.
3 weeks, so just in case something comes up.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all. So it was a little longer than we thought, but we had a little entertainment there at the end. That was good. So, so Imai, when you get this plan, the landscaping plan, you'll just shoot it to everybody, I guess, right? Just
Yep.
And then we vote on whether we vote on our next meeting. But once you just shoot it to everybody, that way, if there's anything that screams out, if you guys see anything that concerns you, just chime in with Imai.
Yep.
We won't violate.
And if we need to put it up on the meeting again, we will.
Right. So, all right, great. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you, everybody.
Stay cool, and someday I'll buy you all drinks. Goodbye. Thank you.
Yay.
Good night,
Bye.
Easton.
Greg, vote to close,
Yeah.
to adjourn.
Oh, vote to adjourn. Strange eye.
That's an eye.
Did somebody
Anderson,
make a
aye.
vote?
Okay, thank you.
We'll break it down. It's good enough.
Thank you.